And so, Senator Chambliss, help us out. We get that information from Gene's sources. In terms of your briefings on the Intelligence Committee, are they convinced he acted alone, as he said, or how doubtful are they? Do they know of any ties on this last trip to Pakistan or in these cell phone conversations with anybody who they can connect to a terrorist organization or terror group?
Well, it's still very early, John, but there is information that has been gathered with respect to cell phone numbers that he used, with respect to his travels back and forth to Pakistan, and information with regard to what other individuals might be involved is still up in the air. There was apparently some indication that other passengers were taken off the airplane. He apparently has said that he knows of no reason why they should have been taken off the plane. But there again, that's one of the unknown answers to questions that are being asked right now. The fact is, this guy is what we're really afraid of, and that is a U.S. citizen who has ties to terrorist-sponsoring nations that give him the opportunity to travel to a country like Pakistan and to get training and experience in bomb making and bring it back home. Very frightening. He's very amateurish. That's obvious from the information, as Gene said, was discovered today. But it's a very, very serious situation and presents something going forward that we've got to do a better job of figuring out these folks that are under the radar screen. It makes it very difficult on the intelligence community as well as the law enforcement community.
And continue our conversation, Senator Saxby Chambliss of Georgia is on the Select Committee on Intelligence, and Fran Townsend, our CNN security contributor, was former President Bush's Homeland Security advisor. When you listen to Ray Kelly there, Senator, to you first, and he describes the questions he has. What did this guy do when he was overseas in Pakistan? Did he receive training? Have you been given any of those details, or are those your questions as well?
Oh, those are still questions that are out there, John, that haven't been answered yet. Just finding the guy was a major accomplishment, number one, finding him in the time frame that they did. Unfortunately, we have hundreds of, thousands and thousands of individuals who come and go to Pakistan every year. We had last year about 10,000 Pakistanis who were naturalized in America. So this is a large number of individuals that come and go, but thank goodness they were able to identify who this guy was before he got on that airplane. These questions with reference to what he did while he was in Pakistan, some of those will be answered by him, but others are going to have to be answered by investigators on the ground in Pakistan and our colleagues and partners over there.
And when the police commissioner says he was not a person of known interest, meaning he wasn't on anybody's list, keep an eye on this guy, he spent several months in Pakistan. He was born there. He's a naturalized citizen now. So is that, okay, well, that's his right to do that, or should, in this environment, just that be a red flag, or would that be inappropriate profiling?
Well, it seems to me, John, they've got to go back and look. In this instance, were there things that should have triggered their interest? Like it's not the question of going back to Pakistan when you were born there. It's spending 5 months there. How did he earn a living? What did he lead? How did he pay his bills back here at home? What are the kinds of things that ought to trigger their interest? It's not clear whether or not they should have, but they'll learn some lessons from this. These are the most difficult kinds of cases to uncover, where it's otherwise it looks like a law-abiding citizen who's going to be naturalized. We need to understand what the signs were that we missed.
I want to discuss some of the political conversation, but first, Senator Chambliss, one quick one. In the briefings today, were there any indications that they have any evidence, any chatter, anything learned in the last 24 hours? Yesterday, people were saying this seemed like an isolated incident. This guy, whether he had help or not, was trying this, but it wasn't connected to other things. Anything to change that?
Still seems like at this point in time it was probably an isolated incident, that we don't know whether he was specifically trained to try to do what he was attempting to do. Don't know whether anybody else, either inside the United States or outside, was involved right now, but those are questions that are still ongoing and will be answered hopefully in the short term, because as Fran said, what you have to do with these instances is that you have to learn from experience, and we've got to figure out a better way of picking up individuals like him who come and go to Pakistan, stay in Pakistan for 5 months. Not totally unusual maybe, where you've got a wife and understand a child he has in Pakistan. But there had to be signals of some sort that he was putting out there.
Well, let me ask you lastly about the political climate. He's arrested late last night while many Americans are sleeping. We wake up this morning, and before the sun can hit the sky, Senator McCain is on the radio saying, why did they read him his Miranda rights? Other Republicans come out. Here's one, Mike Rogers, a Republican on the House side, also on the Intelligence Committee and a former FBI agent. He says, the outcome is that we're playing catch-up all the time, trying to catch terrorists after the fact rather than developing the intelligence to prevent them from successfully launching an attack in the first place. That's part of his argument, that this administration has a softer, more law enforcement approach to terrorism. This administration would tell you, first they questioned him, then they did read him his Miranda rights, and then they questioned him a whole lot more, and he's cooperating so much that they delayed the court appearance. And they would also say, Senator, that they would use, it's a tough standard to use, but the same standard your administration used when some Democrats said you were over the top in your approach to terrorism, that yes, there have been attempted attacks, but there have been no successful attacks. By that standard, the Bush administration standard, aren't they doing a good job?
Well, we were lucky here. We were lucky that that no explosion occurred. If it had, if he had known a little bit more about what he was doing, it would have been a very, very terrible day in New York City over the weekend. But what you do have to look at here is, with Abdul-Muttalib, we read him his Miranda rights after he was arrested and charged, and he immediately clammed up. He may have given us information before then that was significant, may have given us some after that, but basically he did clam up, and yet we didn't take away from the Christmas Eve incident a lesson learned about Miranda rights. Now, all Miranda rights means is that it's an exclusionary rule process. It doesn't mean you can't prosecute the guy if you don't read him his Miranda rights. It just means you can't use any statement that he makes prior to giving him his Miranda rights. He was being held in a perfectly legal way as being an imminent threat to public safety. We could have held him for an extended period of time and questioned him without having to give his Miranda rights. But I think that's one of those lessons that should have been learned Christmas Eve. Thank goodness it doesn't look like it's hurt us this time around, but it may next time.
All right, Saxby, Chambliss, Senator Chambliss, Fran Townsend, thanks.